famously, there is a term in Counter-Strike called utility. And I think this word has a lot of crossover when you think about League of Legends and maybe what utility means within a League of Legends, atmosphere itself. And I think this concept, or at least this terminology, is not utilized, but also, ironically, but also, even if the concept can be initially understood in the basic premise, it's not necessarily implemented or understood well enough to then be utilized greater on within professional teams or maybe amateur play and solo queue or whatnot. And this whole embodiment of maybe what utility is within League of Legends is very useful in the sense that League of Legends, I would define utility as, of course, wards, right? That's the first thing that comes to mind. Your green wards, your sight stone or your support item or whatever, your trinkets, right? So the red Oracle Sweeper, or maybe just your regular yellow ward trinket, or your blue Farsight, or pink wards, right? Or control wards, I guess. And then long form cooldowns that control areas. I think this is an important aspect when you consider the entirety of what utility is, right? Think of things that control zones within specific areas, right? Like Caitlyn traps, for instance, her W, and how she could place those down around maybe a dragon pit or maybe a baron pit. And it's more difficult then for the enemy to infiltrate and take that objective or contest the objective. You can think of fucking Teemo shrooms. Well, I mean, I doubt you're going to see Teemo. Well, maybe in solo queue. Or Victor Gravity Field. These are key components in helping to take or defend an objective, and I would consider all of these things utility. So you go into the classic idea of what utility is within Counter-Strike Go. They're all just grenades, right? In the sense, you have the Molotov, right? Where it closes off specific areas so where the enemy can't be there, or else they're just going to fucking die, right, in the fire. Or you have the smoke grenade, which prevents vision and makes it to where it's very difficult for the enemy to even go in that specific area. And then it stalls in terms to where maybe your allies can then come and back you up if you hear some sounds or whatnot. Or you have the HE grenade, or, in many other games, it's called the frag grenade, to where it's just an explosive that damages people. And then you have the flashbang, which just disrupts a lot of rushes or maybe peaks and whatnot. So the key thing in Counter-Strike in terms of utility is that as a T or a CT, doesn't really matter which, is that generally it's not wise to use all of your utility to take or defend a bomb site initially, because oftentimes you're going to have to handle to when the enemy tries to come back and regroup and retake the site. And I think the same principle can be applied to League of Legends, to where I think it's unwise to use all of your wards at once and then just be stuck there at the objective, and maybe the enemy ends up Oracle sweeping all of your wards to where now you can't even see the back line. You don't know maybe if an Ash arrow is coming from the back line to target your front line or your mid line, right? And so you're stuck out there without any utility, or even less utility, right? Because you may still have your CC or your AoE type traps and whatnot. But that's why preparation is crucial before an objective even appears. A minute and 30 before a dragon appears. Maybe you want to set up the vision so that then you can plan to go back in after they've tried to clear your vision, and then you can go back in with fresh wards, fresh pink wards, maybe even fresh trinkets, and you can go back in and contest that vision pocket, and then now they don't have any vision around that area because you've cleared it all, but maybe they didn't sweep a specific ward in the back end or whatnot so that you can get a TP flank. So this whole idea of saving your utility is actually, I think, both applicable to both games. And that is oftentimes misunderstood within League of Legends and especially in solo queue too. Now, there is an interesting concept within Counter-Strike which can heavily be utilized within League of Legends, which is called the retake. So, the retake in Counter-Strike means that, say if the terrorists have planted the bomb already and they've infiltrated the site, maybe they kill one guy, but there's another guy at the bomb site. You all can think of Dust 2. That's probably the most iconic map that people have played. They've taken B site and they've killed someone, and so they're planting the bomb. The other guy leaves and doesn't try to defend the site, doesn't use a whole lot of utility, right, to try and contest it. He just gets out, regroups with his team, and then they try and retake the site. Now, this is crucial because retaking the site, it betters your chances, but that also means, as I said before, that you have to have some of that utility in order to retake that site, right? That's why it's so important to not use all your utility initially in order to defend or even attack against a site, because you're going to need that later. League of Legends, it's almost impossible that you can retake an objective because of just the massive disadvantage in that generally there are too many angles for you to cover, as far as like initiation tools from the opposing side, right? There's long range CC, there are just multiple different things that doesn't exist obviously in Counter-Strike. But I would like to say that there is a strategy that you can do within League of Legends, which I would like to call the soft retake, which is the idea that you give ground up immediately to where either your teammates can run across the map, or maybe your teammate is over in base and he just needs to come over really quick because he had recalled, maybe to grab some pink wards or refresh his support items. So you can then soft retake, don't give up too much ground. Say if you're at the Baron pit and behind the Baron pit, as red side, you don't want to give up that entire jungle side, because then you're going to have to go through all of that and you don't know if they're doing Baron at that time. And by the time that you get there, Baron's probably going to be done or, at 2,000 health, and then you're going to put yourself in even a worse position. So you need to do a soft retake, which is to make a hard stance and say, we aren't going to go past this line, because if we do, we're fucked and we can't contest that objective. So as a soft retake, you can then refresh your vision, come up and come back with better vision, more control wards, and then maybe you could put control wards into your backline to where now they can't even see your backline and they don't even know what you're going to do. I make this kind of akin, I would say, in a good analogy is like racing, to where you give up the inside line, right? So a guy is going a little too fast and trying to cut you off in the inside line. Well, yeah, just let him have it, and then set yourself up for what they call the apex, which is the best line that you can take going around a corner. Set yourself up better. He's going to be coming in probably a little too hot and not being able to hit the apex correctly. You're going to hit it better. And then for the second turn, you're now going to be on the inside line and have a better line than he did previously. And so you'll just be able to go faster, overtake him, and then gain an advantage in that aspect. So I think that should be kind of the viewpoint in which you should view vision or just your utility usage when it comes to League of Legends, and not be afraid to cede a little bit of that objective area in order to then regroup and refresh your items, or refresh, maybe there's a specific buy that your guys need to get, maybe someone needs to finish their death cap or whatnot. That's a good opportunity to seed just a little bit of an area to where now you can come back in with even bigger and better weapons. That would be essentially like someone coming back in with an M4 instead of just a Deagle, if they could buy back at the spawn or whatnot in Counter-Strike. So The last idea which I want to equate between the two games is the idea of what CSGO players call a dry peek, which is not using utility to catch the enemy off guard and strictly just out dueling them, just coming quickly around the corner and just trying to do an aim battle with them, right? Because they're expecting you to throw a flashbang around a corner, maybe an HE grenade, and then to pop out. Well, instead, you just pop out and try and take the duel itself. So to compare this to League of Legends, a dry peek should almost never happen. Like where you have little to no vision and your ultimate or your CC abilities are on cooldown. You haven't really set up the area with anything yet. We see this time and again from pro players to where they will dry peek, right? Team Liquid is a great example from their game against TSM in the lower bracket of playoffs in the summer split just recently, to where they would go into an objective when they have no business. It's 15 seconds or 20 seconds up for the Dragon. They haven't set anything up whatsoever, but they're just willing to go into that regardless, right? It's just like, why not give that up and try and get another objective on the other side of the map? That's the benefit also too of League of Legends, is that there are multiple different objectives on the map, right? With Counter-Strike, there's theoretically only 2 objectives. Well, maybe 3, right? Because you can kill the actual enemy versus and then there's 2 bomb sites versus there are multiple different objectives for League of Legends to where you can trade to maybe not bleed as much as you would just from losing a fucking round within Counter-Strike. So it's like teams are just willing to completely not give up dragons when they don't have the setup for it, and I think that's ridiculous, and they don't understand the idea of using your utility correctly and maybe even doing a soft retake, as I said before. So anyways, the whole point of this is that you should just use your utility wisely. You should understand the premise of a soft retake, and you should just be able to reset and just use your utility properly in terms of closing out zones, because that's the same thing as what Counter-Strike does. That is what utility is for. It's for closing off zones to where you can see more predictably where the enemy is going to be and what they're going to do. Remember, it's not how much utility you have, boys. It's how you use it.